Hey guys, welcome back for another Spekic adventure. Today we are going to be talking all about the new G87 M2. And I'm here to tell you the reasons on why that is not the car to have. You really shouldn't. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I shouldn't. Should I? I think I should. Back in April, Tommy needed to pick up a OEM part. What was it?
It was some floor mats for this E36.
Yeah, we're actually driving the Astoro Blue E36 today. So he needed to pick up some floor mats at the dealership, and it was it in San Francisco?
It was in SF, yes.
Yeah, so it was in SF, and then so the parts department was actually inside the showroom. So we went in there, and while Tommy was picking up the part, I was looking around, and it just so happened that it was the first week when the M2 HEA models were released, and that dealership had one on the showroom floor. And so I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's an interesting looking car. As I was looking over it, I looked into the interior space and I realized that it was actually really nice. And I was like the thought of like owning the car kind of like came up, and I was like, yeah, you know, this is a nice like luxury daily performance car, right? It's kind of cool. And I was like, I wonder how much it is. And so I went to go take a look at the sticker price, and I was like actually taken aback at how like fairly priced the MSRP was. Like it was like $62K starting, and I was like, for an M car, I think that's like a pretty good deal, you know, like for a brand new BMW M car. And so I basically told Tommy, I was like, hey, like, you know, like this is a car to consider. Like, you know, if we were to like get a car, we should totally consider this type of car. And at that time, I think you were thinking about like the new Integra.
Integra Type S, because that's when it was like the most hyped car.
And so the M2, I think you had an interest in it.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, it's like it's cool car. Yeah. Like you would see like reviewers mention about like how the performance is and like how okay this car was, right?
Yeah.
And so Tommy had an interest in it. I didn't really, until that day I was in the dealership, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is a pretty okay car. And then literally like that night, I kept kind of like badgering Tommy. I was like, we should think about it. We really should think about it. Like that's a good car, you know, like that type of thing. And so I convinced myself after talking to Tommy, like telling him, trying to convince him, I ended up trying like convincing myself. And so literally the next day, the day after, we visited a few dealerships like around the San Jose area, and we noticed that it was like a 10 to 20K markup on the M2. And we were like, shit, dude, like, because the one we saw in San Francisco, the sales rep told us that there was no markup. And so we were like, oh, like, I feel like fucking FOMO kicked in or something. We're like, we should get it, you know, we should really get it, because all these other ones had markup. And so we ended up calling the SF location again, and it turns out that they actually did have a markup on it of 10K. And then at that point, I feel like we were really convinced, like, we should get this car, like it's a good car. And so we went ahead we found that the San Mateo BMW, they do markups, but in like a more fair and I guess discreet way. Like, so the HEA model had a 3K markup, but that markup came with like stuff. There was like this like performance floor mat, I don't know what the fuck that is. And then the other one was like, it had like a paint coat protection, whatever, for like 2K. So it totaled out to be like a 3K markup that you're paying for stuff, right? So at least you get something out of those 3K. And so I was like, hey, yeah, that's not bad. Like, you know, like what kind of car in these areas would you not be paying a markup for? If it's like, for like a desirable car, right? And so we're like, oh, we should maybe know, whatever, fuck it, get it, right? We went home to grab our checkbook to go and actually write a check to secure the deal. But what ended up happening was when we came back to the dealership, literally like 2 hours later, someone else picked it up. Someone else got it before we did. And the sales dude that was helping us felt really bad about our situation. So he's like, okay, let me just like get you in the allocation line for a custom order. But the thing is, if you guys didn't know and you're not following this whole like M2 situation, the allocation lines for those cars at the Bay Area dealerships, at least, it was like 20 something fucking people long, and they were telling people that it was gonna be at least like a 1.5 to 2 year wait if you like basically stood at the end of that line. And so we're like, shit, dude, like I'm not even sure if we would want this car after fucking 2 years, you know what I'm saying? This is like more like an impulsive decision. So our sales dude was like, okay, yeah, no worry, I'll try to like, you know, work my magic and like get you guys the allocation as soon as possible. And luckily things ended up working out and we were actually able to secure allocation, I think less than a month later.
Yep.
Less than a month later. I think it was like sometime around like mid-May or something like that. And then so that was when our car finally went into production, and we ended up waiting roughly about 3.5 to 4 months. So that brings us to August, July.
Yeah,
we're July right now.
Yeah, July.
End of July. So that brings us to the end of July, and that is where we're at right now, and we're gonna go ahead and pick up the car.
你哋嘅車買未？
咩啊？
？OK。
哇！
你安晒佢，傾佢都唔使安晒佢。
連 interior 都整好埋啦，嚇！
安晒啦，安晒啦。
我點樣開呢個？等陣先。哇！哎呀！
Smells like a new car.
It's so nice. Look at the carbon stuff. It's like super glossy.
Wait.
So like
Yeah.
apparently they did the interior and exterior coating. I can't tell, but apparently it's done.
Uploading all of the information onto the car and linking it with your account.
Okay.
Synchronized BMW ID, so if you ever go into a different BMW, all of your settings will be transferred over. So now we're done. And then the next step is shows you how to use the digital key. For the M2, you do need to actually pull out your phone and bring it towards the driver door handle in order to lock and unlock the doors.
But if it's like a watch, you can just...
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And then you place it here
Okay.
to actually start the car. So
Gotcha.
technically you don't ever need to bring your key fob anymore. Allow.
Oh, now it works.
Now it works. So, and of course all of the apps are compatible with CarPlay will be on here.
Okay.
Ice cream truck outside BMW. Got our car, getting free ice cream. It's a cherry sundae.
Thank you. Well, appreciate it. I got the pineapple sundae. Looks good.
And it's
Let's go
free.
back inside.
Yeah, we have a black one here. It's actually sold. Someone else has got it, and apparently it's like a pretty base package. It's definitely very boy. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the lines, for example, like that bump in the hood, or like these corners, it's actually not that obvious because it's black. It like essentially just hides all the lines. If that's what you're into, this would be it. It's very aggressive.
It does.
And the rear too. You know how like people had an issue with the rear, like this corner, this box.
Yeah.
It's not that bad technically because it's black.
Hey, can I... let me... guy also got the same seats as we do.
Oh, the blue stitching.
Go.
You want to move past the seat?
我唔需要，我想試下啫。
Does it feel like your E36?
No, it feels better. E36 feels a lot looser, rubbery, but actually
It's pretty good.
this one is actually pretty good. Pretty short, pretty direct. Still a little rubbery though, but it feels a lot better than the E36 obviously. Got 2 keys. Cool.
What color combo and option do you want?
Oh, so aggressive this one.
Yeah, it looks really good.
哦，因為佢入去得翻嚟。
係啊係啊。我哋有時 post 下嗰啲機嗰啲啊，或者 All right, it's home. So, what's your opinion on it so far?
I think it looks amazing. I haven't even driven it, but
Yeah, I drove it home, by the
yeah,
way.
she drove it home. But so far, just sitting in it at the dealership, looking at it at the dealership,
Gives you
or
a good
even
feeling.
like I was just driving my own car and looking at the M2 from
Behind.
like it looked really good in person. I think these cars you cannot just rely on pictures on the internet. You have to see it in person yourself to appreciate all the dimensions and all the
I
lines.
mean, and cars are subjective.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. Might not be for you, but it is for me, okay?
And that's what matters.
My most favorite thing about this car is the interior space. I actually think the interior on this car is really good. I think the leather is really good type of material quality. Like it's really nice in here. I think it's definitely something you need to see in person. The carbon fiber like trims add a really nice touch. I think the entire cockpit feel like with that screen that kind of wraps around the dashboard, I think that's actually one of like the best looking modern displays that I've seen on modern cars, because it doesn't really look like a screen. It kind of just wraps around the entire thing and makes it seem like it's part of the car rather than something like an afterthought.
It's like a cockpit.
I think that's my most favorite thing. My least favorite thing, I think is actually also in the interior. Interior for me is very important, okay? So my least favorite thing is that M logo thing on the side. I think it's very tacky. Like honestly, like we can live without that. Like it doesn't give me anything. Okay, like but so I think that's also the reason why I like to go with the blue stitching seats, like the more plainer one, because it's just a lot.
Yep.
And so I think the seats actually tone it down a little bit.
Because the other option was to have the highlighted version. You have the red and blue on the side of the seats, and originally we spec'd that version out, configuration out, but later on we changed our mind because we figured that it would get old pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they made that seat with the intention of like having a younger person buying it, and I can kind of see why it'd be attractive to like a younger crowd, but for me I think it's a little too much. Like I much prefer this. I think it's a little bit classier.
For me, I think the favorite part of the car is probably the exterior. Actually, I really like the wide body.
Oh, the fenders.
The fenders, it just looks really good.
It's really wide, by the way.
Originally, I thought the Tiffany liked the front end better. I like
do.
the rear end better, but looking at the car like longer, I just like the car overall, like how it looks. The rear end gives me a E36 vibe. My least favorite part of the car, I don't know yet.
You don't have any part of this car where you're like, I can do without it, or like, I feel like it'd probably be better if it wasn't like this.
I need to like really think about it.
Wow.
I don't really have a.
So at this point, like
Yeah,
you just really
it.
like the
Yeah, I
car.
just like
Okay.
it. So our car is spec'd out with a carbon roof, as you can see on the top. We have also spec'd out with the blue caliper instead of the red caliper that they have as an option. We opted not to get the shadow line headlights.
I personally think it looks way
Right,
better
but we did
without
get
it.
the adaptive headlights though, but just without the shadow line.
Yeah, so the lighting package.
the lighting package.
You know why? Because some of you are gonna be like, well, you fucking missed out or whatever. You know, well, let me tell you, okay? Because if you get the shadow line, this entire front end is basically gonna like be a blob, okay? You can't see any of the details, and if you don't get the shadow line, you can clearly see the headlight.
all the little details.
Yeah.
too. And also the without the shadow line, the exhaust tip is actually chrome instead of black with the shadow line.
Okay,
So
I don't really have any preference there, but what about you, Tommy? Do you think it looks better chrome?
I originally wanted the shadow line, but after looking everything in person, I do think that without the
Yeah, it
shadow
looks
line
nice.
looks better with the Brooklyn gray. I think it depends on your color.
Yeah, that's
like,
what you want, I guess.
And
You
then-
know, if you have taste or not.
Right. So, and then we obviously our car is an auto, and
We got the carbon package, the trim. I mean, not package, the carbon trim.
carbon interior trim because it looks amazing.
And the steering wheel too, right?
Yes, the where the button area is, like the three
Yep.
spoke area, that's carbon, and the seats obviously is the blue stitching.
Yep.
Um,
Very classy
Right.
looking.
So we also got the adaptive cruise control. That's something I actually really wanted.
And we have a remote start, which is something I wanted. You're like, why? Because if it's fucking cold, I can turn on the heater and warm up the car. That's why.
And the other one of the bigger option that we got was the heads-up display with
Oh,
all
yeah.
the M
The
information.
cockpit thing.
The cockpit.
That's actually like a $1,000 option.
Yes,
I think, what was it?
1100 actually. That's pretty expensive, but
Yeah, I asked for that too, but I don't
Yes.
like whatever. I was like, dude, you're getting such an expensive car
Yes.
anyways, you might as well, right?
and also with this dealer, they required the wheel locks too.
Oh,
But,
yes,
I mean
we have
that's
wheel
something
locks.
we needed to get anyway. So I mean, might as well just get it.
Yep.
So the MSRP of our car came out to be just right under $70,000.
So I was actually the one that drove the car back from the dealer back home. And my initial driving impression, obviously didn't floor it or anything like that because we're in a break-in period, okay? Is that this car, like the power is readily available. It feels very performance oriented in a sense where like whenever you are braking or let off the gas, you can hear the car, the RPMs trying to catch up with itself to essentially put you in like the most optimized power band so that if you were to get back on the gas, the power would be readily available for you. And so, I can also feel, because of that, I can also feel the car engine braking in a sense, which is really weird for me because it's an auto and I've never had an auto like essentially stop. It basically, when you have normal autos, it would just coast, right? This is basically a little opposite of that. And then also I feel like the brakes are also pretty, like has a pretty strong bite. So with that said, because I feel like it's geared more towards like performance oriented side, drivability, like comfort wise, I feel like that's where it gets a little bit compromised because of that. I think the driver would have to learn essentially how to brake and how to let off the gas in order to not compromise that passenger comfort. Overall, we are super happy with the car. It's everything that we had hoped it to be. I think you guys can expect to see more of this car on this channel. The plans with this car, I don't think that we are going to be tracking it anytime soon. It's a very expensive car in terms of like maintenance and parts and stuff like that. So for now, we will most likely just be doing like small mods, maybe like tinting the windows and maybe adding some small like aesthetic things or comfort things here and there, maybe some things to protect the car, stuff like that, just small mods like that. But you can expect to see this car float around on this channel. Thank you for coming with us to go pick up this car. We're super excited to, you know, have it under our ownership. Stay tuned for more Spec Geek adventure. We'll see you next time. Bye.